The best approximation, if we were to try to paint a picture to make it a little easier, have you seen what a tsunami wave looks like? An actual tsunami wave from many of the, videos and what have you. Instead of it being water, they are writhing, blood-soaked, furry creatures with beady little eyes that reflect all of the light that even remotely factors in. So those distant emergency lights that are all throughout the mall spaces, even when they don't have any occupants, those small lights reflecting off of a million pairs of beady black eyes that suddenly turn red the moment that the light connects with them, writhing and rising over your head as you attempt to make use of your feet. You attempt to escape. And those chittering, squeaking battle cries that the colony of rats issue from themselves. It's the equivalent of D-Day from Saving Private Ryan, with the men pouring off the boats, rousing their courage to rush forward into their death. Except for in this case, instead of simply taking the sniper fire and the mortars and the machine gun rounds, they are dishing it out in several hundred pairs of sharp incisors and claws, scratching for purchase as they scrabble over each other and over you, attempting to chew their way through you as if there's a fire on their tail. And into this mix, into this maelstrom of rodentia violence are the kindred. And unlike most animals who raise their hackles and do shows of aggression and proving their inability to knuckle under to the severe predatory might of the kindred, these rats, these rodentia, chipmunks and squirrels and opossums and various other urban rodentia, they rise to the challenge, savoring the sweet dead flesh of your kindred existence, drinking and lapping the vitae that, of course, is superficial, as some people have browsed for the evening, some kindred have browsed, and that vitae is there tasting so sweetly of melon and happiness, despite it being a very dead thing. And as you fall into this wave of bodies of rodents of all stripe and variety, you realize that some of them have their skin missing, some of them have exposed bones, some of them are clearly as undead as yourself, and they continue to gnaw and chew their way through you. This is what the coterie awoke to. This is the trap and ambush that had been set by them. This is their judgment day. They had been found wanting. They had been found waiting. They are in possession of information that no one should believe, that no kindred would openly believe, and yet the fact that they possess it has painted a target upon their backs. And that's where we left the coterie, with Leonetti dipping, ducking, diving, dodging, and attempting to get close enough to their obvious controller to lay them low. And as each member, each little small facet of this massive colony of rodents bound together by the will of a kindred determined to lay you all low, his beast, his very real, potent aspect of himself rises to the fore. The need for blood, the need for vitae, becoming preeminent in all of his concerns, because the beast, much like taxes and the piper, must be paid. And so, with that hanging over our coterie's head, with that being the before and after of our coterie in this particular moment, I'd like to thank you all for all of the times that we've shared with the Gary coterie, all of their ups and downs, their highs, their lows, and I look forward to what they may bring to bear. And with most of our questions, suggestions, and hypotheses being accounted for, I'd like to thank you all and say that this is officially Steel Hearts, Rusted Souls, Season 3, Epilogue and Finale. The Ramparts, Parapet, Romping, Popping. Knowing where we are, swallowed by a mass of fur and chittering noises, chittering death coming on feet far too small to actually consider a threat. Leonetti, with your hunger at 5, with the desperation of the situation laying there before you, if not for action sooner, if not for a rallying cry, if not for being able to work together, if not for uniting somehow with the information that was before us, we wouldn't be here. And as a sniper, as a surgical shooter, as someone who is accustomed to being behind enemy lines, the battle plan, the strategy inherent, has always been something handled by others. You have been a weapon through your life and your unlife. But in this moment, you are none of those things. You are a predator cornered by other predators. 100 million mouths clamoring for your flesh, clamoring for your vitae. The beast having risen as high and strong as it has in you in ages. One roll for it all. One action possible. What is it that you do?
Well, seeing with his back against the wall, dodging, becoming almost running into a corner, dodging, only allowing him for so long, he decides to grip his fates as best he can, disheartened by the fact that his coterie might have been doomed, was probably doomed, and his goals would not be able to be, his desires incapable of being achieved. He decides, well, might as well shoot until I drop. As he goes to fire his weapons upon, it's the closest things that he to him. The swarm of rats.
Now recording.
So roll for attack, right?
Yes. So while we seem to be experiencing a small bit of technical difficulty on my end, would you be so kind as to roll your resolve plus firearm, and I will try to rectify this as quickly as possible.
Sweet.
Alright, there we go. Alright, let's see what we have. What has fate decided? What is the final verdicts? The outcome of it all. Sometimes fate, in all of its wondrous humor and its contention for attention, to be focused and worshipped and dreaded and feared, occasionally has a semblance of grace. And as the world blurs into a red haze of angry little incisors, angry little teeth, and claws swallowing your view, and as the gun sounds like a cannon in your hand, as the world smells of vitae and moist fur, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll 1/3 of your humanity and your unspent willpower?
Okay. 1, 2. Do not add hunger, correct?
No.
Do not add hunger. Okay, got it. Gonna be enough?
As the world disappears into a blinding haze of red, you can hear the last time you remember the last time you heard your daughter's voice. It was after your death. It was after your last, greatest, final mission where you were ruled a KIA, where all traces of you were left lying fallow in some forgotten field of battle, thousands of miles away. Yet here you stood in the shadows of the tree in your your former front yard, watching through the curtains as your daughter and her mother and their family mourned the letter they just received, claiming that you were killed in action, that you were awarded the Purple Heart for service, and rising to and exceeding the expectations and the execution of your duties in protecting the country that you loved. And the last active sound of your daughter's voice was her crying. And that's what you hear now. Except for it's not her voice. And it's not her tears that are staining your cheeks. It is, in fact, yours. The carcasses of the rats around you. The picked clean bodies of those who got caught in their wave around you. And the desiccating corpse of their master several feet away. And as you realize that it is your voice, and that it is your tears, that it is your emotions, your feelings that having found some semblance of success, some minuscule less than 1/100% chance, and that release being so overwhelming, and the truth of the matter being that if your needs are not met, this will all the same be your last night on earth. And as that thought circles through Leonetti's mind as he comes to grips with that reality, there are several ways that Kendra can die. Fire, the sun, beheading, the teeth and claws of other kindred. And as those realities have been accepted as truisms, there are in fact worse things than death. And as we turn our gaze to the remainder of the coterie, Genevieve and John, Marcus and Nikki, having come so close to the feeling of death, knowing what it's like to be gnawed into nothingness. The reality that there are, in fact, worse things than death remains with you. Because unlike humans, shock will not put you out, will not knock you out, will not have your mind save you from the pain, will not have your mind take yourself away from what is happening around you, what is happening to you. So as though all of those hundreds of thousands of feet, all of those hundreds of thousands of teeth crawled over you and tore and shredded your flesh, you were aware. And as they fall dead or try to make their escape in the now, their attack, their onslaught suddenly over like a switch had been thrown. Those who had persisted through their own death into the now, falling prey to that absence of animating force, and the others either cannibalizing them on their way out or simply escaping into the night. Where does that leave you guys?
That is an outstanding question, as in the last thing I remember as Marcus is completely succumbing to blackness on the stairwell headed to the basement. After, saving people, because I'm an idiot. But if the wave recedes and the blackness abates, I'm going to lay there and go, ow.
So many rodents, so many rats, so many enemies crawling over you that the world seemed to be blacked out into nothingness, and yet still witnessing and being privy to all of that stripping, tearing, and shredding as bits and pieces of you were taken away, ingested. It's not some place that is normally the purview of a maker. It's not normally the purview of a Tremere. Hell, it's not normal purview of any living thing. Because at the moment of consumption, most things that are being consumed are in fact already dead. Unlucky for you, you are already dead. So you got all of that joyous, wonderful ending over and over and over. There's several fantasies that you've read and several punishments that you've heard of through fantasy, through games, through books, through movies. The one that keeps coming back as you realize that your strips of flesh and the fact that you are still here, the death of 1,000 cuts. And it plays over at the back of your mind, as it does when you are given the opportunity to let your mind just do what it does. All of the several million rams and gigabytes of information you have at your mental fingertips, and the fact that your mind never stops moving, and other things are taken in and other things are moved out of conscious thought, but it's always moving, and that keeps coming back to you. You know what that feels like. At least you can clearly imagine what that feels like, as you can still feel them crawling over your skin, even in the darkness of absence, even with everything that you can sense, see, or hear being them.
Well, Marcus was aware that most people went towards the basement when they were taking their rests. So as the rats abate, he's going to half walk, half crawl his ass down to the basement to see what is going on down there.
Sitting in a pile that covers most of him from the waist down, the first thing that you see is John slowly crawling himself to activity. Because you know, as a kindred, he's not unconscious and never had been, but I'm sure that he very much wished that he might be. Further on into the darkness, you can hear the sobbing, racking sounds of Leonetti. And all across the floor, it is as if you're walking on a carpet of crunchy, slightly hairy Legos. This occasional squish only adding to the very real ick factor of all of the bodies strewn out between you and John, and further on into the darkness, Leonetti. Somewhere out there between where you are and that back emergency illuminated exit sign is Leonetti, and he's out there in the darkness.
Marcus is just going to go to the closest person to him because he's massively injured already. Everybody's in better shape than he is, in theory. So he's going to try to center that person so they can start making decisions so he can lay down and whimper, as is his wont.
Gigi, of all the ways to end one's self, of all the ways to be consumed, or as many childish individuals have often leveled in response to various stimulus of eat me, it is now suddenly one thing that will probably never cross your lips, at least for a few decades. Eat me, and the feel of those little fingers. Because being as sensitive as Gigi is, she did in fact feel each of those individual digits as they held on and crawled over her, through her hair, through her clothing, and found ways to extricate flesh from her, to swallow her whole. Where does that leave Gigi as she exits the basement office where she had been alighting for the night, resting out the day?
Gigi is probably angry enough to have little wisps of oblivion like leaking off of her. Like instead of the cartoons when they're angry and their head is steaming, it's oblivion. There are little holes all over her clothes and she is cursing a blue streak and just like scrubbing at her skin to get the feeling off, looking around for everybody else.
John is near Marcus, who clearly has come through much the same storm as you and John. You can hear the soft, masculine, racking sobs of, you're guessing, Leonetti, you're not quite as familiar with the sound of his voice as Marcus, because you haven't had the opportunity to spend as much time with him. But from your angle exiting the office, angry though you are, and the ability to see into the darkness, Leonetti is on his knees, the smoking empty gun in his hand, and across from him, roughly a quarter of the distance between him and John and Marcus, is Nikki, who is rousing themselves fairly slowly. It is clear that you all were beset by this carpet beneath your feet, the crunch and squish of small bones echoing your steps even though nothing else does. Silent as always, thanks to the gifts and curses of oblivion, you see the scene of this coterie, your coterie, stretched out before you.
Well, I see we all roast for wear. Leo, is that you? Out there in the dark? She starts walking towards the sound of him crying. Somewhat not familiar with it, but she remembers his voice from times on the phone talking with him about his daughter and the legal help she was giving him before this all happened. Yeah, so she's gonna head towards him, but pause and help Nikki to sit up a bit and look down at the pile of ruin that was the person that sicked these animals on them and just kind of spit on it.
There is a saying, there's an aphorism, there's an understanding as to how far things might go when the enmity rises high, and it comes down to, I would not piss on your face if you were on fire. And that is exactly what you feel for the desiccating corpse lying a few feet from Leonetti. The clear cause of this, a kindred who, well, was determined to do a thing and very nearly succeeded. The why of it all is the question. Yes, kindred turn on each other all the time. Yes, humans turn on themselves all the time. But there's typically and usually an inciting incident. It doesn't have to have an inciting reason, at least not a reason that anyone else needs to understand. But there's typically an inciting reason. And you can't, for the life of you, justify an inciting reason. Even an nonsensical one, as this kindred was clearly the kindred that John was attempting to help when you all returned here. And such for an egregious, violent attack, because that's what it was. There's no inciting incident. There's no inciting reason. There is no visible or viable justification in Gigi's mind for it. And that she helps Nikki back to their semblance of self. What is going through Nikki's mind? Okay, seems as if Nikki may be having a small bit of technical difficulty. Gigi, as you're helping Nikki to their feet, John, Marcus is suddenly there as the light dawns. You can see and hear and feel things that are not small mammalia crawling, divesting you of all semblance of unlife. What's going through your mind, knowing how close you are, in fact, to receiving that big final ride of second death?
He'd probably fucking rats. And that guy that I was trying to, Alistair, that's what his name was. One of them. One of them. He would try and stand up, missing a pinky or two. He's, other than that, if I remember correctly, he's fine. Besides missing a few limbs. Minor limbs. John is one tough nut to crack. It would look to Marcus and ask if he's okay.
Marcus is laying semi-fetal, and he was fucked up when you guys got to the coffee shop. He is now concernedly fucked up. There is exposed bone. There is massive gashes. The wounds that he had previously have been chewed open all the more. He is not looking okay, and he is not moving a lot. Very rarely in this group, very rarely, except for Leonetti, have any of you seen wounds on a mortal that look like this. Even more rarely would you have seen it on a vampire. So he is messed up.
We need to get you some blood so you can heal. Yo, everybody, let's go to Silks.
I am going to beat you with a sock full of nickels, just so you know.
But you're on the ground. How can you?
It's just a note for future reference. There will be nickels. There will be a sock. Unfortunately, that might be the only real option we have right now. I just don't know whether it's a viable option. But Marcus is saying none of these things because he's saying, Basically, that's me telling you, you guys got to figure this out because Marcus is
dead.
I mean, you guys are messed up, but Marcus is fucked up.
Marcus is a clear, viable corpse. Even with the few remnants of clothing that adhere to his frame, there's no confusing the fact that Marcus is dead twice over. He is the very definition of cadaverous. He is the very epitome of the walking dead. Even if you were to clothe him in a new suit, there is no mistaking the fact that he is well and truly deceased. While you each could potentially hide the bulk of the wounds that you all received, minus the few facial injuries, the gaping holes in jaws revealing the teeth and gum line beneath, the missing portions of your ear, the fact that they chewed through scalp to get to the nice spongy mass underneath the bone skull, while how they attempted to go through any opened orifices to reach the soft innards. All of those wounds, all of that collateral damage is visible on each of you. However, none of you save Marcus went into full, debilitating, very near final death. He is exactly 2 superficial wounds from never waking again, from never rising from his daily grave again, from never resurrecting for another night, and adding most injurious insult to the mass potential damage to your self-image, if any of you choose to look into a mirror, is the sound of Leonetti. There is a animalistic sorrow that is unavoidable in his voice, because it is not Leonetti the man that is so damaged and so in need. It is Leonetti the predator that is damaged to the point of need. There is an overwhelming need, and is one that is just beyond the reach, because the man stands inviolately guarding the doorway, keeping the beast from having its just due, from doing what would be the easiest, most self-beneficial thing it could.
Well, yeah, I guess tough. Leonetti is trying to hold back, but he is getting close to the point where it's like, I need to just find something to at least satiate the beast, because I do not. The longer this happens, the more the harder it is to control. And there is a very, very tantalizing corpse right in front of me. So I should eat it to prevent him from ever harming me again.
Nani kare? And that is Lasky's reaction to him saying that.
I didn't say that out loud.
Oh, you didn't say that?
No. That was... He's just going to eat it. Going to eat the vampire. He's going to drink from the vampire. The dead vampire.
That's the goal. And that's the aim. And somehow, through some indefatigable sense of self, Leonetti begins crawling across the floor, pulling himself along. The mass damage to his prison, which is the flesh that he is bound to, that he is locked within, only drawing it out, only making the inevitable happen as if it's in slow motion. And as you all watch, he pulls himself forward, falling over the desiccating corpse of the cause of this. His fangs extended, the clear hunger in him, his back bowed to the task. And most of you all have had the opportunity of actually feeding, of knowing the pleasures that come, of knowing the satiation that fills you in that moment of drinking down another person, of taking what you need, which is that life that lies within. And then there's what you witness here, the corpse desiccating, the true image of what the person you attempted to help actually is and always has been, a desiccating, shambling corpse beneath all of those pretty little pictures that they presented to the world. And the scent of vitae begins to fill the place, because as hungrily as Leonetti consumes and gormandizes the vitae, there is splatter and there is ruin, and in the midst of all of the slurping and slight growls issuing from his throat is the very real damage that he is doing. It is not the nice, neat lapping of a dog taking kibble from your hand, or the snuffling of a horse as you feed it corn or an apple. No, this is the hungry feral tiger crunching through bone and slobbering as it goes. The noise that he makes, the noise that comes from him and his fallen prey, is something that, while not as horrific as being consumed alive by the mass of rodentia, will haunt your minds, will haunt your dreams, because at the end of the day, you all know that that beast, that monster, that predator is at the very hidden door of your mind. It is sitting there in your heart, always one decision from revealing itself to the world.
That leaves Gigi a little bit torn, because she knows he needs to feed and calm himself. But the sound of it and the sight of it is not something she wants a part of. So she's looking at Marcus and then trying to plot out how to get him fed enough to not be next on the menu. Because she could see that happening if they don't get it together. trying to think if she has like any favors she can call in, somebody she can contact real quick. Typically she doesn't do bagged blood, but in a pinch, this might have to do it. So, yeah, she's gonna focus on something like that.
Marcus is barely aware of his surroundings, so what Leonetti is doing is for the benefit of John, Gigi, and Nikki. He, on the other hand, is thinking about any of the rats that are around him, if they might hold a cup or two.
All right. So, first things first. Lene, please so kind of go ahead and one more time roll your resistance to frenzy. Your target number still is equally as high, especially being as you're now tasting the potato that's been all around you. As far at 1/3 humanity plus your unspent willpower. The rest of you all, would you be so kind as to follow suit? Because as the splatter and stain and the blood in the fallen rodentia around you is beginning to waft fully into your understanding, Marcus, the exact same except for your -1. And let me bring up your sheets to see if I can help you with that, because I know that you don't have it there with.
Rolling 1/3 willpower and what?
1/3 your humanity and your unspent willpower. John?
Just to be correct, 1/3 of 8 is 2, right?
Yeah.
Well, 2, 6. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to do hunger. Or no, that doesn't matter. Okay.
So the unforeseen happens. Or the unconsidered happens. As the sounds of Leonetti slobbering over and animalistic, divesting the nearly deceased torpid kindred of their furtherance of a facsimile of life. And as Marcus begins crawling through the crunchy, moist pelts of the carpet beneath you all's feet, and as Gigi turns away and begins racking her mind for some way to attempt to help her coterie through this, as Nikki is stupid and shocked to the point of near catatonia, there is a howl of response, a chest rattling growl that tears free of John as he dives fangs first into the pelt around him, snuffling them up as if he is an elephant with a crack cocaine addiction, is slurping through the mounds of flesh and his bloodshot eyes as he begins looking towards the kindred around him. It is clear that in no uncertain facsimile of an idea, that those that move, that those that attract his attention will be viewed as meals, as the frenzy of the beast inside takes full control of him.
So I have 2 superficial, 4 aggravated.
Yes.
I'm gonna keep eating until I am stunned or can no longer find viable blood, and I will heal as I go. So I don't know how you want to visualize that or mechanically do that, but yeah, Marcus is basically lost his shit once he figures out that there's blood around him. It's not going to be pretty. The 2 superficial are fairly easy, but the aggravateds are going to get a little deep.
All right. So,
I'm not frenzied, right? I passed, I think.
you passed a hunger frenzy, but you just described exactly that. So you're effectively willingly riding the wave of that hunger frenzy because healing and savagery is what's on the table.
It isn't quite so much a frenzy, like there's no anger behind it, but it is like a mechanic, like somebody hooked up a conveyor belt with rat bodies and he's just taking them down. And you described rodentia, so I'm assuming you take up possum and raccoons and that showing up as well, but he's not vicious about it, but he's very mechanical, just stuffing it down. And I know animals have a limited blood supply in each one, so if you could give me like a mechanical truism that I can play off of.
Gotcha. We're gonna go in alphabetical order.
What's the alternative to riding the wave?
It's a yes or no. It's a binary. The alternative is that you don't ride the wave and you don't have that small, very thin bit of a semblance of control.
Okay. I guess I'll ride the wave then. And who's standing closest to me?
Standing? The closest person to you, unfortunately, is Marcus. The next closest would be Nikki, then Gigi, then Leonetti.
And out of all of them, who's standing?
Probably GG, but I'm really sure you don't want this, bro.
Yeah, I know. I don't want any of it, but I gotta choose a target. I'm definitely not gonna go after Marcus because I will probably kill him. Makes me think of when I got bit when I bitch slapped Marcus. Actually. Oh. Okay. I have an idea. There's a bunch of corpses on the ground. The rats. I'll go after the rats, I guess, then. Yes. The rats. If there's any humans around. I mean, what?
I think I managed to scare all the humans away and threw that last guy out right before I got taken, so the humans should be gone.
I'll go after I'll eat the rats.
All right, so
Corpses. Dinah.
in the excess of caution and in the almost self-sacrificial bent toward continued existence, we're gonna do this. Marcus,
Heard.
you are too aggravated, too superficial. Your hunger is roughly back to 1. John, you still have your full track of superficial because you didn't say you were healing, but your hunger is 1. There are still bits and pieces of bone and rodentia flesh between your fangs, but you are at least a little more calm. Leonetti, your hunger is 3. Your health tracker is as it was. However, you are no longer in frenzy. Gigi, you're fantabulously disgusted, having watched 3 frenzying kindred divest all semblance of life from the scattered corpses around you. It is literally all you could do to not attempt to find a corner to hide in, to find some way to seal yourself away, because that same monster is inside your chest and is merely looking for the opportunity to burst free and drain the world. But watching it happen, having that dark mirror turned onto yourself, seeing what you are like when the control is not yours and instead is that voice at the back of your head, that need to consume, is a fear that, well, most cognizant kindred are wholly aware of. And it's the reason why every opportunity to feed, every moment of quiet embrace is a risk. It is a threat. There's a small chance, but there's still never a non-zero chance that you may lose it in those moments. And having experienced the absence of need and the ignorance of the surroundings about you all far too long later, far too much self-control given away to the need to attempt to heal, the attempt to keep the beast at bay, the attempt to muscle through the mania that comes with giving oneself over to the beast, either willingly or unwillingly, either through action or intent. You all stand in the rack and ruin of all of the corpses. Leonetti, there is but one test left for your bravery. Would you be so kind as to roll your strength and brawl? At a DC of 3, if you do not exceed it, you were not able to pull yourself away before the final drop.
This is going to be difficult. I don't believe that I'm going to be able to. Yep. Just barely.
So as your coterie have begun to come to themselves, and you're still slightly snuffling and attempting to continue to pull more, do they watch as you permanently exsanguinate not just the kindred, but their soul, or what little bit of their soul is left?
Marcus is still subpar. So he has, unlike the rest of the time where he's been muscling through with all the wounds he's been carrying, he just doesn't have the presence of mind to try to control anything in the room right now.
Can I try and rip him away from the corpse before he gets full on delabralizing?
Okay. And Gigi, you were saying?
Well, Gigi's kind of been watching him the whole time anyway. She would make moves to try to stop him as well.
Excellent. Who has the higher strength between Gigi and John?
Probably Gigi.
Gigi's at 1. She's a little Southern Belle.
Oh. Guess what? We're both at 1.
All right. Do either of you have potence? All right.
No.
I do. I have soaring leap.
All right. So in that case, would you be so kind as to roll your strength plus potence plus brawl plus 1, as you and John muscle through your own pain and your own demons to attempt to assist Leonetti from staining his soul a little darker today.
Huh.
All right. Well, Leonetti, would you be so kind as to roll your strength plus brawl -1, because there are 2 of them, and your target DC is resisting the success of them as they tear you away from the corpse, the body beneath you, the meal that you have not finished. And you know the rules. If it's on your plate, you have to eat it all. Leonetti, did we lose you?
No, just I was in a loud environment, so I didn't want to unmute. And cause too much of a ruckus. So Leonetti is a little bit pissed because he is still, his hunger just still there. He wants to eat it. As he looks at his coterie and just of, what are you doing? Growling, because in his mind, that is an enemy. That is someone who tried to kill not only him, and especially since he's getting more control, that also is me. It is also his coterie, the people he swore he would help every time. This person tried to destroy them all, erase them from existence, erase their soul in his mind. This individual deserves nothing but being erased from existence. And he is baffled and angered that his own coterie dare stop him from enacting this.
Okay. Do me a favor, go ahead and roll your strength plus brawl -1. And what are those results?
Would it help if Gigi was trying to talk sense into him the whole time?
And what is she saying? Is she attempting to wrestle him free of his meal?
Leo, look, you don't want this. If you keep drinking, he'll be part of you for the rest of your unlife. You will drink him down and he will attach to your soul, and that will never leave you. You will hear their voice for the rest of your unlife. Don't do it.
Okay. I think that now he does. I think that he does act. He now is he stopped. This is a friend speaking. Not just a coterie member, but a dear friend. One that has helped him throughout his life and unlife. He very, very much respects her and her opinion. And has gotten counseling from her very much. So he is less inclined as doubt sets in.
So in the wreck and ruin of all of the bodies, of all the parts of bodies, all of the detritus of a battle won by the thinnest margin possible, with the body of a kindred, a disgusting, desiccated corpse-looking kindred, now even more lacking in their semblance and their ability to potentially become mobile. The remnants of the war fought, the battle won. What do each or any of the kindred present, any members of the coterie, what are your plans? What are your intentions? And let's start in reverse alphabetical order.
Marky Poo.
Am I first for reverse alphabetical?
Yes,
I
you
am
put the
first. Holy crap! Okay. I'm not used to being like at the top or the bottom of the line. Marcus is finally going to gather his wits about him because this is the best he's felt in days. He's going to look at Leonetti slowly backing up from the desiccated corpse and say, let's get rid of that before we get tempted again, because that is a problem we do not need right now. And let's clean up. We still have a mission. We still have a purpose. Right now, though, we need to refocus, because that whole rat thing was too much.
Well, Leonetti also wishes for this affront to be over. And he looks over to Marcus one more time, just confirming, just to make sure that he can deal with him properly. Making sure that he is no longer a concern of the coterie. Just asking, should I kill him? Or do we want him as some kind of information? So be it.
I think we've taken him to the point where information is not going to happen. Just take his head and be done with him.
Got it. As he just goes to remove his head from the rest of his body. As best he can.
John,
Prepare.
John wants to ruffle through his pockets. John's pockets. Alistair's pockets. See if he has like a letter on it why he attacked us.
Gigi is going to make sure that they have everything down here sorted and settled and head back towards the office that she was spending the night in to see if she can get herself at least somewhat put together, find some way to put together the rest of the coterie, get them some way to travel, and then maybe some more blood to heal everybody up before they get into any more major scuffles.
That's right. Marcus could use like a stitch of clothing. That would not hurt.
it wouldn't. And the problematic aspect of being the living embodiment of shadow, the anti-technology wormhole of despair that is being a child of La Sombra, means that in the worst moment, when communication is at its utmost, unfortunately, thanks to the vicious attack of the rodentia, thanks to the stresses of the last few whiles, an experienced La Sombra would know that there is no cell phone, no cellular device, no computer, no laptop, no modern technology that may be of any use to them when conducting any attempt to reach outside of themselves. They know and would understand they would have to make a drop-in. They would have to make appearances. They would have to go there because only in the person would there be any effective form of communication.
Christ on a cracker. Okay, fine. I will try to find a way to get us to where we need to go without looking majorly suspicious. What do we have for vehicles?
We brought the VW Bug and the Camaro. The Camaro is a little more high tech, but the VW Bug is just wires and an engine. As pointed out when they were still at the factory, Marcus said that the Bug is pretty low somber proof.
Okay, so then in that case, I guess what's going to happen is everybody's going to have to load up, and Marcus is going to either have to sit in the trunk or like hunch down as much as he can so that he's not visible, and then somebody else is going to have to drive the Camaro so that they can go somewhere to get clothing and fed.
The people who are most capable of driving are, what, Gigi, Leo, and Marcus?
Yeah, Gigi's gonna drive the Bug because obviously that's the only thing she can drive.
Well, Marcus is in good enough shape. If somebody can give him a shirt, he can drive the Camaro.
He's bare-assed.
He's wearing scraps of cloth at this point.
John will point to the lost and found.
That'll work. So Marcus will take the Camaro. Leonetti, you want to ride with Gigi? I don't want to leave her alone in that car, and I can keep an eye on Nikki and John.
Wait, did I have a brain fart? Did I find anything on what's his name's person?
Yeah.
Yes, but you'd better not say.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on GG.
What did you say, nobody?
Just to make sure.
Yes, but you'd rather not say. There's something immediately impersonal about what you find. There's something extraordinarily personal about what you find. You find your home address listed on a scrap of paper. You find several pieces of dried human feces, and what you hope is maybe some hardened piece of leather, but part of you knows that it is in fact not. If it was the singular piece of dried, hardened, semi-leather, you'd be fine, but there's several patches, several small little squares and strips that were saved. And though you try not to think about it, you try not to worry overly much about it, after your recent brush with second and final true death, you realize that you hope that you're wrong, but you know somewhere deep in your soul that you are not. Each of the several small pieces of hardened, dried leather are pieces of Alistair's former victims. Each of those several strips of flesh came from something that was either living or pretending to live. Each of them trophies.
You already know what I'm going to say. Does one of them look newer than all the other ones?
There are several that are slightly newer.
Okay, I want to do Spirit's Touch then. On the one that I think is the newest one.
All right. Have at it, sir.
Browse. Then for E 4 plus it's inch plus aspect, so 4 plus 4. That's 8. Now I have 3 hunger. I am back up, baby! Oh shit.
And as you all are making your plans to leave, John is crouched over the remains of your would have been vanquisher, and he begins to convulse and shake. And for those of you who have had experience with those who have seizures, it is very much is that, except for he's not locked flat. He hasn't fallen out. There's not one that causes him to lose actual time, but it is actually a severe grand mal. His muscles contract and restrict, and it is not the kindest of things to ever have to witness, especially when you know there's nothing that you might be able to do. And while the contractions and the convulsions are happening in your world, inside, hundreds of thousands of miles away from the moment in this now, John sees, he feels, he experiences the terror of his prey fleeing before him. The man, a would-be leader of men, a kindred who espouses that there might be a better way, a way to work homogeneously with the humans around them. There were sustainable ways to not have to inflict harm, to not have to, but in his preachings, in his attempt to get supporters, in his attempt to change the very foundation of the society that he was now a part of, unwillingly, he came to the ire of those above him. And as he fled through the night, using the supernatural speed gifted to him by his blood or by what he's consumed, the eye in the center of his head, a garish black thing, dripping blood and flowing behind him. His speed availed him for naught, because unbeknownst to him, his death was supposed to be messy. He was supposed to be an example. So while he was given the opportunity to flee, he was not given the opportunity to escape. And as the flora and fauna at your control crawled over him, gnawing and tearing and ripping things away, your lead boy, Clyde, the raccoon who died over 25 years ago and had been by your side ever since through the uses of your blood, brings you the man's skin. And as they tear at the muscles and chew through the lungs and crawl through the mouth, eating the tongue and infesting every portion of him, before the pain is over, you stop them. They all retreat, and the skinless, mostly muscleless kindred still pumping vitae through their system to try to heal the damage done to them, still trying to cling to immortality. With his lungs exposed and beating because of his attempt to rouse, you place the tip of your cane dead against his heart and push down. What happens next, even you can't bear to watch as he's paraded through the little town of Maryville, Indiana, and mounted, staked for all of those who rushed to his banner, who attempted to overthrow the would-be prince. And now, at every gathering of the primogen of the city, he sits, unalive, in pain, able to hear and be affected by, unable to heal. And you're suddenly back to yourself. The convulsions have stopped.
So it wasn't Felicity then.
As you're back to yourself, having experienced the power that was at your fingertips, as you unwittingly ease into the life of Alistair, you remember small few details, the call from those people, those rabble needing your services. You remember the setting up of your cover, the idea of getting close and waiting until the message was given to enact the plan, which was to make sure that all threats to, you're not sure whom, to what, but you know that Alistair was a paid mercenary. There are several boons that are now left unpaid. You know that he was only one of a few kindred mercenaries who've taken the job to remove all threats here in Gary. You know that this was supposed to be a final removal of all threats, all opportunities that would slow down the usurpation of power. But you're not sure who's the cause of it, which person hired him, what was this about, how, whom, when. Lots of questions lay there. And there's your coterie is watching you and preparing to leave. What is it that you all do? What is it that you do, John?
I put all the leather thingies in my pocket, and then join the rest of the group in what they want to do.
GG looks at John. Something you want to share there, Sugar? I see you stuffing things in your pocket after that weird thing you just went through. What's that?
This is Alistair's pills.
Baby, I know what pills look like. Don't try to lie to me.
Kills. 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 His victims.
So why did touching his kills make you spasm out?
Because saw through his eyes, or the person's eyes, their final moments.
No, that ain't creepy at all. Well, who did you see?
Primogen. Something about a primogen.
That's weird. Well, I suppose it's just another mystery we gotta figure out of some sort, but I guess that we should get going. And
Always
she's like,
another mystery.
I am suspiciously, obviously, because lawyer senses are tingling, but she's not. We don't have time to dig into it, so she's going to just like mark that in her head and then head for the car.
Also, he had my address in his pocket.
So you were a target.
Me or never mind.
No, you can't start a sentence and go, never mind. Me or who?
My ghoul. That's what made me scared, and that's why I spazzed on one of his leathery tools on the newest one that looks like the newest, but my action, my thought was wrong. I think.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you probably are wrong, but at the same time, the fact that he had your address is concerning.
Means others might have it too. Yes. I don't give that out to anybody, so I don't know how he finds out.
She looks towards Leonetti real quick, like, well, you're familiar with that whole cloak and dagger sort thing. What do you think?
I make it a point not to care about other hitmen's jobs. It makes my life easier to ignore them. But if I had to say anything, it would be obvious. This individual doesn't seem like he would be able to find someone's location regardless, and because he has that, it's obvious someone hired him. So now the question is, who knows your address and has the money to pay a hitman? If you can't think about it, look at your allies. Because the saying is true. Keep your friends closer and your enemies closer. Your enemies closer. You may unknowingly be an enemy of an individual. This is speculation, of course. And I cannot answer your question. This is something you have to figure out on your own. Oh.
Marcus is busy packing up the Camaro with all the shit he had in the closet upstairs. But walking through the middle of that conversation, he's like, all of these questions need to be answered. All of them need to be looked at. But we have a central mission right now that may or may not answer some of these other questions. And I think if this address is known, it might be time to find another address. Anybody have any thoughts?
Well, unfortunately, I'm all out of vacation homes this year, so I can't help us with another place to hide.
I'm a bit hungry.
My thought is, in my current state and the current state of all of us, it might be time to retreat back to some place where we're not relying just on ourselves for protection. Maybe it's time to go back to the Tremere and take advantage of the Chantry.
The wizards and the lunatics. Well, I guess one lunatic. Oh, okay. Unless they are in what's your name's pocket as well.
Well, here's the thing. And all of that. They could already head out into the night. Is there a particular destination in mind? Or are they just going to drive around until they find something that they think may suit them?
Marcus is going to contact, and I couldn't pronounce your name when I saw it every day. The Tremere, whose name starts with an A. And ask if they have room for us to bivouac in the short term.
And in all these plans, Nikki, what do you think?
Does she still look like she got nibbled on?
She looks like she got eviscerated.
I don't really care until I get a full throat change.
Well, sounds like to the Tremere it is. They would have food and lodging, so. And we have one of their Mechity Mix, Mr. Magistrate over there.
Things are never as simple as they seem. And while that's a very well-known, often tried out chestnut, there was a very simple thing that was afoot this evening. At the start of the evening, the coterie was beset by an assassin who used an ocean of rodentia to divest them of their ability to move, to have any flesh that could power or hide their muscles' movements, to chew through their muscles and, well, swallow them piece by piece until there was very little left, staking them more of an afterthought, making the separation of their head from their shoulders and the severing of that connection a foregone conclusion. They were beset by an assassin who, even as Mr. Lasky didn't inform his coterie, was clearly hired by a power or the powers that be, a name that was bandied amongst princes. And their intentions were clear. They had been placed there and had been hired to do a job. They had been hired to watch, to keep notice, to know where Lasky's fallback places were, to, if activated, if charged with finishing the job, it would cost him and anyone with him their existences. In the not mentioning, in the not sharing that information with the coterie, there is no way that they are unaware or prepared for arriving at the Chantry House and seeing the several emergency vehicles, the police swarming the campus, the city having out their pest remediators. The campus is all but officially closed. There seems to have been the worst infestation of rats that they had ever seen. There is nowhere on the campus that is not swarming with police or EMT or fire or the city rat catchers. Sitting there watching the lights dance in the distance, keeping their distance because they very much do look like the Walking Dead. They look like people who have survived a zombie plague by becoming the next iteration, the next step in evolution of zombies, bleeding, thinking zombies. And watching the hullabaloo and watching all of the chaos. Questions abound. Is there anything that the coterie in this moment might do to abate those questions?
Marcus in the Camaro is, I'm assuming, in the lead with Gigi following in the bug. And he neither accelerates nor slows down, but drives right on by. Just another person and not pulling into the university. He sees all the flashing lights out on the street, and he's like, oh, but hell no. And he keeps going straight down that road. And past all of that train wreck. Obviously, there is a third player working some bigger machination than maybe even Evelyn is aware of. But he is going to bypass that train wreck, and hopefully Gigi will follow.
Yeah, Gigi knows better, obviously, that many cops, there's something major going on, and she's going to keep driving.
Marcus tries to look at what's ahead of them past the university. He's going to wait at least 2 blocks to make any decision. But if there is a 7-Eleven or, some other quickie mart, some stop and rob with a parking, that's where he's going to pull in.
Ben's Auto Shop.
Pulling into the White Hand Pantry, the Midwestern version of 7-Eleven. There's part of him that believed that it went out of business back in the late 90s and the early 2000s, but lo and behold, here's one right there. And so he pulls into the lot, far enough away from the store to not draw attention and close enough that it won't seem suspicious. We're taking it that Gigi follows suit, correct?
Yeah, definitely. She is being vigilant and following him closely.
As you all ease into the lot and debark from your vehicle so that you don't look suspicious as you stand just outside of the main paths of light, what is it that is on your mind? What is it that you are discussing? Because time is, as always, of the essence.
Okay, so that's a bust. The Chantry was the last bastion of any real power structure other than Evelyn's that I knew of. Nikki's club is off limits. Gigi, I'm assuming your offices are probably closed down as well. Lasky, obviously your coffee shop is done. our options are very limited. If Evelyn and Silk are working together,
At this point, Lasky's overthinking. And he kind of just like goes down to his knees, just and puts his hands on his head, just like trying to think of a way out, a way to battle this, but he just can't think of anything.
I don't have the magic to contact Cone directly, and he's not answering his phone right now. We could try to retreat back to the factory. It's defensible up to a point.
We would then be fighting and then fighting and fighting until we die.
But it beats the hell out of being outside in the sunshine. I mean...
Oh, if we found a different location or just a random location. Just for a night.
I mean, if you're looking for random locations, I think that I'm probably the most qualified amongst this group to find that.
That's actually very true, Leonetti. What kind of bolt hole can you think of? Because the only thing I can think of at this point is either the factory or the basement of the old church where the interchange was, where the anarchs were running their open bazaar.
Well, I mean, for example, I was sleeping literally in the air ducts. That's why I avoided the rats. Also,
we would need
you guys doing that, but
for a building, for an actual
building,
place we can hide, because we have equipment and we're waiting for a phone call. So where
the first thing that we would want is either isolation. Depending on our goals, we would either want isolation or concealment. We'd either want to find an isolated area far away from prying eyes, but simultaneously not out of place. We don't want to be going to a quote-unquote ghost town. Or concealment. Make it, which hasn't been working recently. Make it look like you're not really there, but that hasn't been working. The coffee shop has confirmed this. So isolation would be the preferred option.
So let's assume that our adversaries, and let's not kid ourselves, there's more than one at this point. Our adversaries know all the addresses we frequent. I mean, for me, that's one place. Lasky, it's one or two places. GG, 3 or 4 places. You, not so many places, and Nikki is just one place. We need something that's completely off any of those grids. Something that is abandoned. I have a thought.
Please.
The elementary school that we fought the whites in, you guys weren't... Oh, well, damn, none of you were here for this. A few weeks ago, almost a month ago, we fought some whites in the basement of an elementary school that had been abandoned.
That would work. We need to get... Though I believe that our choice in cars will make it pretty obvious that we're there.
Well, no, I mean...
I know,
it's the whole elementary school is abandoned, so if we hide the cars behind from the street side, we can hide the cars and be inside. The only people who really know about this place are mostly dead, as it happens to be. we could go to this place and hide it out and try to make contact with whomever might give us more information. I could keep trying to contact Cone. Leonetti, I'm fairly certain you have contacts. John, you can do your thing. Gigi, you can make some calls among your kind contacts, and we could try to find some stuff out. What we're basically waiting for is stalling until this goddamn sat phone rings.
And what if it never rings?
When that sat phone rings, we'll know where the truck is that we're trying to hunt down. Once we've accomplished that, I've been promised more help, more information. But they want proof that we're willing and able to do bigger jobs. So this sat phone is step one of a bigger process.
I only see one problem with that. Notice the
Hit me.
first thing you said. Elementary school abandoned. Attacked by what now?
I was really hoping nobody would notice that word.
I'm a lawyer. I notice all the words.
It was the surfacing point for a coven of whites. But we killed, as far as I know, all of them. It cost a couple lives in the doing, but if we stayed in the upper floors, I think we'd be fine. I mean, it's an elementary school, 2 stories tall. We pick an upper story. We block out the windows. Nobody notices. We pick a room that's not facing the street. We hide the cars behind. That would give us time. It would give us leeway. And the only people who really remember are either dead or here, namely me.
Mm-hmm.
So we take this place, we sneak into this place, we hide out, we wait for the call, and while we're waiting, we do what each of us is best at. Leo makes his contacts, John, you do your thing, Gigi, you make your phone calls, and I'm going to keep trying to get a hold of Cone or some of the other Tremere and find out what the hell happened there. And hopefully we'll have a secondary fallback position. I had contacts with the Thin Bloods, but they're very limited, and a lot of the contact points I had have passed on. But I'm willing to make those phone calls as well.
I have other Thin Blood contacts, I think.
Well, then that's your job. I mean, I have contacts with what was left of the circulatory system that I could make a couple of phone calls to. But basically, we're stalling for time and stalling for hiding space until this sat phone rings. If we complete the mission that I described before, find the truck, tag the truck, put a two-way communicator on the truck, if we can do that, a lot of our problems will be alleviated. We'll have a safer haven provided us, and maybe get some of our old havens back. I mean, Nikki wants their club back. I know John wants that coffee shop back. I sure as hell want the factory back. If we can complete this one mission with this one truck of the SI, then we can start bargaining our way up back to where we were.
Fine, but if the whites show up, I'm giving them you to eat first.
Oh. Here's a funny thought.
What if we find a different branch of SI and send them after?
As much as I'd like to think that's possible, the SI are too coordinated with the PD in Gary. they're just a juggernaut. We need to make this one thing happen to diffuse them as a problem for the city. And then the city will owe us. We'll also be able to point them back at Evelyn, hopefully. That's our goal. Diffuse them as a threat for the run-of-the-mill civilian kindred and point them back at Evelyn. Because right now she's running them and we're getting our asses handed to us. You just got to see the Sash and the Leopolds and the First Lighters as one homogenous unit. Because Evelyn's playing them all like a fucking orchestra. So if we can get a hold of this truck and do this thing, we can redirect them. Because Evelyn's been feeding them information while hiding her status. If we can reveal her status, reveal her duplicity, they will go after her, and we can do our business of putting Gary back together. But I think this elementary school might be our best chance for a safe place to hide for at least the night, maybe 2 nights. Because like I said, most of the people involved with that assault are either dead or gone. Yeah.
And you're telling us all the people? Or
Not
either
all.
our allies or dead?
Not all the people are dead or gone, but the ones that I'm most afraid of are dead or gone. And this would be a place that doesn't appear on any of our roadmaps. Anybody who's been tracking our lives, this isn't part of it. I mean, Leonetti wasn't here. John, you weren't here. Gigi, you were just my lawyer at the time. Nikki, you were just doing tattoos at the time. I'm the only one that has a direct connection to this place. And the people who were with me, like I said, dead and gone. So I'm the only thread that leads back to this place. But it only happened one night, one time, by accident. I think it's our best shot for having a hidey hole. And if we have to fight a white or two, I shot one. I killed it. I'm not bragging, but that's what happened.
Yeah, but I don't think right
If
now
you
we're
could shoot one, I do believe that I can as well.
No, man, give me...
If I shot one, Leonetti should be able to take them apart surgically. So I say, I want everybody's opinion. I'm gonna leave it up to you to vote because you were not a member of the coterie when this was going down, and I'll subscribe to whatever you guys choose. But this is my suggestion. I think it's our best shot right now. It puts us in the middle of the city in a building that we can defend, and is our best chance from hiding.
Give me something I can use to hit something with, like a pole, a bat, like a good melee weapon. I'm not too terrible with those.
As Marcus is talking, he'll notice, or if he's looking in her direction, that Gigi kind of goes silent for a minute and gets a little bit of a trying to figure something out look, and then her brow kind of comes up and she head tilts because she's piecing things together, and she's like counting things on her finger and mouthing words because she's trying to figure this something that's nagging at her in the back of her head. And then she looks up. Wait. hold on. Evelyn told us everything, right? And we were suspicious about the fact that she told us everything. But then, not that long after she tells us everything, that gets us moving in a specific direction, a hitman shows up to take us, or at least one of us, out, and anybody with that person out. After we were sent in a very specific direction. That don't seem weird to y'all.
It does. It does. It does.
I agree. That was a very good observation. Thank you for at least enlightening me.
Inciting violence.
But my point, if she's trying to kill us, then why would she try to get us to do anything for her? Or if she's got us moving in one direction and she needs us to do the thing that she tried to point us at, then why would she then attempt to kill us and not get that thing that she wanted to get us to do done? I feel like there's some sort of second or third party that's working against them, or nobody all knows they're working together and they're butting heads, and we're just kind of caught in the middle of everything accidentally. But somebody's trying to kill, John, and for some reason, and then Evelyn pointed us in a direction. She needs us to get something done for her so that she can have her hands off of whatever it is. It's not meshing. It don't make no sense. So I think they're kind of on opposite sides, probably.
It sounds like you are meant to be scapegoats.
The unfortunate truth is we've been scapegoats all along, and we just got to figure our own way out. I agree with Gigi in the fact that this doesn't taste like Evelyn. The timing's off. She said she would stop protecting us as who we were as a focus. But this doesn't strike me as an anarchist attack.
If you look at herself and then look at you, I don't know about you, but I don't quite feel protected. Do you?
The vision I had did mention that I saw powerful people. Princesses, basically.
So we gotta assume that there's, look at the battlefield. There's us. Let's say we're one pawn in the middle of the fucking board. We've got the Vanguard, which are compromised because Silk and Evelyn are working together. We've got the Anarchs, who have been fucking people over. Yeah, they've been fucking people over left and right. And right now, Evelyn has taken her hand away from protecting Autarchus in the city, which includes us. We've got Chicago to the north. We've got Thornton to the west. That's a bunch of barons and a prince already looking at Gary, because Gary right now is leaderless. We've also got the remains of Blood Syndicate, the circulatory system. So maybe they're involved. And we have the SI. Now I have
heard some things through my connections with the police that there is another group attempting to move into the area. And they are not too nice.
Have they told you what kind of group it is? Is it criminal, law enforcement, political? Have they told you any kind of specifics, or are we guessing on this one? Because, we've been guessing
talking
on
about it, so obviously it's not the cops.
So it's got to be criminal or political.
Remember, the whole thing with the warehouse and the market going down left a big power vacuum. There's somebody probably trying to fill that and take over that spot.
So, craptastic. I know the market coming down was a huge hit for the Anarchs because the market was their clearinghouse, along with the circulatory system being subsumed by silk. But the Vanguard's man that was going to take over for the market, he died fighting the Whites. I think his name was Aces or something. But he went down fighting the Whites. So, I mean, fantastic. We don't need another facet in this diamond. It's gleaming enough.
You're pointing out the fact that Evelyn's doing her own thing and she's got the SA or the SI working for her. You don't think that she's hiding that fact from the Anarchs? The Anarchs don't like being led by anybody, really? They would never go for that.
She definitely has to be hiding it from. I mean, she might have a couple of trusted lieutenants she's telling this information to, but the general population of the Anarchs, if they found out, they'd tear her apart, no matter how big the throne she's sitting on is. And if they found out she's working with Silk, who's a member of the Vanguard, they tear her apart. So either way, she's riding a thin edge. So, but I think you're right that there's a new player of some kind, but I can't puzzle out where they'd be coming from. I mean, my initial response would be Jackson's finally coming down from Chicago. And he's done with Gary being a pain in his ass, and he's going to send a new group, a more dedicated group than the Vanguard to deal with it. So, I'm going to say our best chance right now to find a center that we can work from, because right now we're floating. The best chance we have for finding a center and working our way out to success is going to be with Sharp. He's the one that has stayed true to his initial purpose. Without the Tremere, I mean, Cone was good to us, but whoever this rat man was, whoever his little cadre of mercenaries were, they've taken the Tremere basically off the board. We can reaffirm contact, but they're not going to be as powerful as they were. But Sharp has backing that exceeds the city. If we can work for Sharp on this truck deal, we can work backwards and figure out who this new enemy is. We can figure out this Prince of Princes, or whatever we're going to call him, that's trying to muscle in, whether it's Jackson or somebody fighting against Jackson, whatever it is. That's, I mean, we have a plan. If you guys disagree with me on the elementary school, come up with another place we can hide. But, I mean, the sun's coming. We got to have a place. And we can
I recommend going to the elementary school. We have little time, and I have not heard a single place better to go to. So we either go to the elementary school or we figure out a place to go now. Figure out another suitable location now, because if not, you all can stand in the sun, can bathe in the sun as much as you want. But I not wish to die here. We've all danced with death a little bit too much today, and I do not wish to do so again.
I mean, I'm the oldest in the coterie, but I'm not. I refuse to treat it like an autocracy. I'm not claiming praxis. I'll take whatever hints, allegations, or decisions or votes that you guys are willing to put forward. My vote is the elementary school. It's the one place that I can think of off the bat that would be safe from kind and also off the grid enough that the people hunting us may not know about it.
Fine, let's go.
Has it occurred to anyone that perhaps we know too much?
Knowing too much is...
And that the powers that be are cleaning house.
Yeah, and that's why I suggest taking us off the board for a minute and let them beat on each other while we heal.
And
this is the best I've felt. This is the best I've felt in 5 days, and I can still see the bones in my arm. So I would prefer to be in a hidden place.
I suggest we heal and leave town.
I agree. And once we get there, everybody gets on a phone. Everybody gets on whatever communication device they need, and we find as much information as we can. I don't have contacts outside of the maker community, but even that's got to give us something. Gigi, I mean, I don't mean to put pressure on you, but you're the one with the closest contact with the kind. You're going to be our best source of information. It's the new problem is related to them. But the rest of us are going to continue working whatever informational sources we have, and we've got to find this out. And that's our only program until Shark calls us on the sat phone. And at this point, Marcus is going to open the passenger side of the Camaro and get in the driver's side of the Camaro. So whoever wants to get in the Camaro can get in. Whoever wants to ride in the bug can go with Gigi.
I'll go in the bug.
I hop in the Camaro.
You know, it's funny that of all the details and all of the many paths forward, all of the many places that the coterie has been, through all the many lives lost or vacated through their actions and trying to hold the middle ground, to remain autonomous, to remain free of any dogs in the lead in any of the factions or any of the sects. While multiple times they denied or turned down or spit in their face of or otherwise impugn the right to rule of most of the factions that had aligned, those working for the tower and those working for the unaligned, the rabble, the anarchs. In this darkest of moments, having been hunted, having been targeted by an assassin who utilized the most demeaning, demoralizing path forward to ending their potential for immortality, the coterie find themselves contemplating, considering, and honestly weighing being of service to agents of the tower. They offer their service and their chance to hide out and to lick their wounds. And as they are considering those things, there's a very real facet that has not been addressed, and that is that this entire happenstance of events, this entire path forward to tonight, has been for the battle of the soul of Gary. This entire thing has been because they refused to side with any of the established sects to lead and own the soul of Gary. So much so that their relative successes, their ability to operate independently, was viewed as a threat worthy of an assassination. And there's a connotation that comes from an assassination. Heads of state are assassinated. Important social leaders are assassinated. Those who have the ability to sway or affect the minds of a bulk of a populace are assassinated. Average persons, they're killed. They're murdered. They're occasionally hit, but never assassinate. Then you don't hire an extreme genius level professional when you're just trying to make sure your loud neighbor at the end of the street gets the lesson permanently. You can hire anybody, you can go anywhere, you can even do it yourself, but you don't hire an expert at the craft for someone who's not worth it or not considered worth it, unless they're just loose ends, part of a bigger package, kind of a 2-for-1 deal. And in the grand scheme of things, because there were plenty of schemes and plots along the way, that very well may be what they are considered, but the truth of the matter is, again, you only assassinate those of high enough standing and import to the populace that their deaths are ruled assassinations instead of just killings, instead of just murders. And as the coterie, our association of Gary, head towards 2100 Union Street, as they make their way through the farther edges of the city, skirting most of the major roadways, taking back ways to cul-de-sacs, to alleyways, they find themselves at the school. All the realizations of the evening, having given the distance travel, given them the opportunity to consider all the things that have led them here. Here being the dilapidated, ruined remnants of Gary's idea of moving forward into the future. And that's the funny thing, is this closed school, this dropped in the moment place of education, is indicative for the battle for the soul of Gary. Every person, every leader who wants to make their imprint on the future, from Walt Disney to the armed forces of the United States to the prison industrial complex, hell, and as far as it goes, unfortunately, even to those fascists and Nazis, know that you get them young and you educate them in the ways you would like them to. But Gary was forced to even close this, another one of the many schools shuttered, boarded up, and left lying fallow. Hard to build a future without children. Hard to have a future without educating and indoctrinating them while they're young. And looking at what is to become the coterie's base of operation, their home away from home, the place where they will hopefully stand a chance to live long enough into the coming future to have something worth defending, or to have a life worth squandering. Looking at the school and the neighborhood around it, What is it that the coterie may decide to do?
Marcus is going to be the engineer of the group. He's going to lead them into getting on the property, humping over the curb, and getting the cars behind the school from the street side. And if there's like a hidden little area inside the school campus that they can tuck the cars into, he'll do that. If not, he'll head out to the trees along the southern border and hide the Camaro in there, and hopefully Gigi will follow. Once out, he's going to start humping all of the equipment that he put together. So the World War I, World War II issue radio equipment for tracking SI communications that he put together, the antennas for triangulation, all that crap, he's going to hump it back to the school and find a second floor classroom that does not face the street so they can block off the windows without freaking anyone out. And he's going to set up in there.
We know what Marcus is planning. That's several hours at a minimum of things that are necessary to happen. So while that is happening, what is everyone else attempting to do?
Well, when I get out of the car, I'll look for a piece of rebar to just have in case whites come out.
The whites come out at night. The whites come out at night.
And that means they're already out. Virgil Elementary School.
Well, Leonetti is gonna set up. Is gonna try to call in an old friend of his boss to try to set up some potential backup in case the plan doesn't go as planned, and he could at least have some place to go to return to and maybe even get out of this wretched hell.
You know, the funny thing is, and the thing that His Honor so far has not allowed him to do, Pompeo, Pomp to his friends, is in fact the Baron of South Haven. At any point, the job is technically over once Mason McGinnis died. Was destroyed is nothing more than dust. At any point along the way, Leonetti could very well easily return because the job was completed. Well, it may not have been completed to anyone's satisfaction, but it was in fact completed. He did protect Mason McGinnis as long as he could, but Mason McGinnis is no longer amongst the existing.
He's staying here out of obligation. But yeah, technically he does have a way. Yeah, he has a way out, and he's making sure that his coterie might have a way to get out as well.
So he's calling home to Ma and Dad. Hey, do you mind if my friends come sleep over? Instead of just leading them there. Always so respectful of Leonetti. And while he reaches out to the Baron, while he reaches out to Pomp, what are John and Gigi doing? What is Nikki doing? We know that Marcus will be busy puttering, tinkering, building, moving. But what is it that they are doing?
Wait. I am unmuted, sorry. So John will be, first look for a piece, something that he can use as like a bat or a melee weapon. And then after he finds something suitable, he will then call not Toinette, but Faustus Hicks.
Okay, so he's going to attempt to reach out to the Thin Bloods.
Yes.
To what ends?
To check in, and also because of what happened with what's his fuck's people, Marcus's people, but also to see if Toinette has started her rampage.
Okay. And Gigi, as you watch Marcus busy himself trying to solidify the room and make sure all of those various things are happening, and as John is pacing, it's him dialing number after number, and Leonetti is dialing a series of texts back and forth. What is it that Gigi is doing?
I think she'd want to heal her face, or attempt to heal her face, just in case she needs to be seen somewhere. I don't know whether or not they're gonna go back out, but just in case, she might want to try to heal her face some, and then the fact that they're attempting to assassinate them, making them important for some reason, is bothering her. So she is going to sit down with some paper, go over all the names that she knows are involved, like Evelyn and Silk, and all the mystery people. Kind of just write it out and use her lawyering and logic to kind of, I guess, like I said, just more in depth, put this puzzle together and sort it all out so that she can get an idea of who their biggest danger, or where their biggest danger is coming from.
Okay, go ahead and, if you'd be so kind as to go ahead and roll intelligence plus subterfuge. And while you all watch Gigi break out the pad and pen, as it were, what is it that you're doing, Nikki?
She's gonna sit next to Gigi. It almost looks like she's in a trance, but she's thinking. Says this is a situation that she hasn't been in quite some time. Pretty much last time she was in a situation like this, she was human.
Yes. Hold up in a place in the middle of a war zone. Enemies through one belief or another to both sides. And at the end of the day, that's where the coterie is. Enemies to both sides in this war for the soul of Gary. Desperation of action and need. And without a shadow of a doubt, as you watch Gigi construct a map of events, a picture begins to form that is disgustingly oppressive. If facing off against both sides was completely and totally demoralizing, because it's not as if you all chose to fight either side. You chose to push to obtain some semblance of autonomy. You wanted free of that battle for the soul of Gary. And then not choosing a side and not doing for either side until now, until choosing this moment, until being absorbed into it. It didn't seem all that bad. You were relatively free. You were protected by your not having been one of the combatants, but those protections are gone, and the assassins came, and every entity, every being, every kindred that did not choose a side seemed to be done away with. The furious texting of Leonetti as he's attempting to reach out to the Baron Pompeo, who's outside of Gary, and the attempt at calling, and then calling another number, and then texting a number, and then reaching out of Lasky to the Thin Bloods, who were in hiding. And the fact that you all know the Tremere were effectively working both sides against the middle. All of the flashing lights and police cars in front of their buildings. But that removal of protection and the attempt on their lives and the attempt on yours wouldn't make much sense unless it was the coup de grace, the scouring of all of the supporters of, the chance of an antithesis to your purpose. Why else? Why else indeed? All of the movies about how villains monologue or how they go on and on and on and need someone to understand their brilliance, that's in the movies. That's in the books. That's in the video games. In real life, villains only tell you that they're villains once they've won. Or once they believe they've won. It's when you lash out at the person at work and they say, "Oh, that's okay. It's perfectly fine. I know you're going to be fired anyway." Or "I know you were fired anyway." Or "I knew you were," and so forth and so on and so on. And it begins to reveal itself how many steps along the way that they've been working against you. And that heavy load, that metric ton of details reveals itself in one night. Baron of Gary, Baron Stevens, has solidified her reign. She has usurped, undermined, destroyed, disabled, disengaged, and otherwise removed any threat to her true usurpation of power.
Good night, long knives. And she just chuckles towards her.
Gigi stops mid and looks at Nikki. "You were played for fools. This whole damn time, we were played for fools." And she speaks up so that everybody can hear. "Well, turns out that this was all kind of a smokescreen to hide the fact that there is a new Baron taking over Gary. And
Which
that
Baron?
we were just the last little bits of crumbs that get swept into the dustpan to keep them from taking over."
Okay, so I have two questions. A, which Baron? Is it Evelyn? Or is it another Anarch? Second question.
The last name was for which one?
Yeah. Use the last name.
Baron Evelyn Stevens.
Okay, so it is that one. Second question. How does she expect to survive and succeed when she can't kill a bunch of fucking neonates who were hiding in an elementary school? Because we are going to take that rampant bitch apart.
She figured she didn't have to. She sent the other guy after it. She sent... that was basically a cleanup crew. What happened tonight?
But do we look cleaned up? I think between brain power and gun power, this room is holding some of the strongest, scariest autarkists that have ever walked the face of this earth. I think it's time we do the job that we were hired to do and take advantage of that success and take Evelyn apart.
That's all fine and well, but how do we go about doing that? Do we turn the Anarchs against her?
I think we turn everybody against her. If we can get onto that truck that Sharp told me about and plant information in that truck, we can spread that information, and not only will the Anarchs turn against her, but the Chantries of the West and the Midwest, Chicago, maybe even Thornton will turn against her. And nobody can resist that amount of scrutiny. If she's proven in any real sense to be working with the Leopold, the tower will fall on her like the hammer of God, and her Anarchs won't protect her anymore. They'll let her die.
Maybe
And
that's one of the reasons why we are being killed. We are being hunted. We know.
We know, and absolutely. But the fact that we lived and we know means we can turn that shit against her. I say we burn her out. I
agree.
Whether Sharp wants
As somebody
it or not,
from the military that has, from personal experience, those in power usually like to erase evidence of their faulty. So, and I would very much like to not be done that for a third time that I can remember off the top of my head.
so that's our plan. That is the coterie's new focus. Find a way to turn this truck, despite whatever Sharp wants to do with it, whatever. But all the information out of that truck has to come through me. I'm the only one who has the skills Sharp needs to make that information useful. So everything that comes through there, I get to look at. I can twist it, I can bend it, I can turn it into a pretzel if I have to, but I will make it look.
Are you sure?
Even if it isn't true, I will make like she's been working with the SI this whole time. And I will spread that information on Facebook if I have to every Anarch in the city.
Primogen now.
What?
Well, the fact is that it doesn't matter how much we bend it. The fact is that she does work with him, with the CSI.
Yeah.
And she has admitted it much.
If we don't
She
show
has
proof,
directly stated to us that they are under her control. That is
she
unirrefutable fact. That means we can alter the story as much as we want.
No. It's irrefutable that we heard it. it is not irrefutable presented to the general public. We need to get this truck.
But the fact remains that we know that she did it. That means that if it actually did happen, it is much easier to get people to see that than try to get them to believe a lie. We have evidence. We have
no, we don't have evidence.
A basis.
We don't have
Sorry,
evidence.
not evidence. I meant a basis of truth.
We have a basis. We have the basis of truth. We need the basis of evidence. Something we can put out there in the
Which is why we're going to get that. We're going into that truck.
So this is our plan. We hide here in this elementary school. I want all of you to think about secondary locations, because obviously the mercenaries she's hiring are not amateurs. But
as
we work here until Sharp contacts us. We find the information. We get as much of the information as we can. I'll give Sharp whatever information I think Sharp needs, but I'm going through all the information that comes through when we take the truck.
Yeah.
And I'm going to...
And don't worry about that second location. I'm hopefully going to be able to get to set up something for us.
That would be great. And Gigi, I need you to do that lawyer thing, because that legalese thing that you do that I cannot ascribe actual words to, you need to do that thing to make anything that we find presentable to a wide audience. We not only need to piss off the Anarchs, we also need to piss off the Vanguard minus Silk. We possibly might need to piss off Jackson up in Chicago, so that the full hammer weight of Kindred Society falls on Evelyn. Because I would prefer not to be alone in that face-to-face fight. But, I mean, our own survival requires us to win that fight. So if we're alone there, we're going to have to pull it out no matter what. Or, dance in the dawn. Those are our options. So, Nikki, Gigi, work together.
Hold on. Nikki brought up a good point just a little bit ago, and y'all just didn't even pay no mind to it. You're trying to reach out to Sharp. All this depends on Sharp. How do you know Sharp ain't already dead, or Sharp ain't already been taken out or outed? He's also in her way. So if she sends him after us, how do you know he ain't dead and we're waiting for nothing?
Okay, well, first of all,
have you been able to reach him?
Skills. I haven't been able to reach him. Sharp has got some serious skills, and he's outside of the bubble that is Gary, but I ain't been stupid. This World War I and World War II radio equipment ain't here because I like things that weigh 500 pounds. This is our avenue to the self-same information. If Sharp can't get us, one of these two big-ass fucking radios hopefully will, because I found out a while ago that these idiots at First Light and Leopold and Sash, they've been using these World War I, World War II radio frequencies to communicate, hoping to stay under the radar. So I've got a backup plan to the backup plan. If Sharp can't get to us and these radios come through it for us ahead of time, we'll go as soon as we have the information we need.
Okay, and how do you know the sat phone that you have ain't reason or way for them to track us? How did they know where we were to send that assassin?
Sat phones are uniquely GPS non-located. And I have been in the guts of this thing. And I'll go in the guts again if it makes everybody feel better. But sat phones can't be tracked like a cell phone because they don't use cell towers. The best accuracy you can get off of satellite tracking on a sat phone is about 4 square miles.
Okay, fine, I believe that, but the rest of it still stands. Like, if somebody else, like Sharp, maybe even not Sharp, but what if somebody else was a target and Sharp was with them and they were a target, and then, like I said, it feels like we could be waiting on something that might not come.
And like I said, that's why the World War I and World War II radio frequency receivers that I have with us, we're going to listen to these day in, day out, and hopefully jump onto, because the SI are using these frequencies. So we're going to get it straight from the horse's mouth. We're not going to have to rely on Sharp if we get lucky on these radios. We'll get it straight from the SI. Where's the truck? They tell us where the truck is. That's all we need to know.
Do you know which frequencies they are using?
They're using World War I, World War II Army frequencies. We already caught them on it a couple of times, and it saved our lives.
Is a pattern?
What?
A pattern to the frequencies they're using.
There isn't a pattern. There's a range. The Army in World War I and World War II only used a specific frequency, and civilian radio units were locked out of those. But I'm a nerd. My radios aren't locked out. I bought this shit surplus. So I have access to those frequencies, and they just scan all day long. And when they get a transmission, they stop. And I've got a couple of recorders. It's all good. If somebody talks on one of these frequencies, we're going to have it. It's our backup if Sharp has been killed by a rat wave, or Sharp decided to fuck off and not deal with us anymore.
But okay, for now, why don't we try just for now just suspend all outward communication and just focus on gathering information?
Well, and the unfortunate thing in this modern age, you can't get information until you reach out for it. I mean, I can passively listen to the SI, but I might be listening to them ordering toilet paper for the next 6 months. Nikki, you have contacts in the underground. Gigi has contacts in the legal realm. And John has contacts I can't even begin to guess at. Leonetti has contacts that are in the serious criminal realm. The only person who doesn't have real contacts is me, because maker nerds don't get hired by vampires to do shit. The only thing I have are these 2 radios, and I'm going to work these things until the vacuum tubes burn out. But everybody's got to work a little bit on everything that they know. And either the sat phone rings or one of our contacts comes up with something. But we're looking for a big black van with a bunch of antennas on it. That's our goal. I've got all the equipment we need to patch into it. We just got to catch the little bastard. And after that, it's just data. Going through mountains of data, and I can do that fast. And then Nikki, you and Gigi can go through that data and what I find and word it in such a way that it has the maximum impact for the audience we're looking for to incite.
I'm an expert at propaganda.
I figured between the two of you, you could make a bunch of people really happy or really angry, just depending on what you want to do. I can't do that. I can get the data, and I'll give it to you, and then you guys figure out what the hell to do with it. and just, have John in the room, because John can make people crazy. So just sprinkle a little crazy on top of the angry or happy that you guys are creating. And
I don't make people crazy.
But you understand crazy. You know what goes that direction.
If I fully understood crazy, I would have made that man leave my coffee shop as soon as
Nobody fully understands crazy. And the bonus is that we have Leonetti in the background keeping an eye on all of us. All we got to do is get through the next day or two, get this information, get it out there, and let shit happen. And when shit is happening, that's when we really come into our own, because in case nobody's noticed, when things are stagnant, we get ourselves in trouble. But when things get weird, we're the A-team.
That's all fine and good, and I'm okay with putting out whatever information y'all want, but at the same time, the more powerful old ones don't like technology. They wouldn't be on Facebook. So how do we reach them?
We reach out the old ways.
I mean, we can find messengers. I mean, Cone, the Tremere may have been broken up. The Tremere may have been broken up, but I'm sure eventually we'll be able to get a hold of one or two, and they can get word up to Chicago or up to Thornton, to the Anarchs. A couple of phone calls and try to find some of the Thin Bloods that are in hiding. We've got contacts. I mean, I've sold motorcycle parts and shit to half the Anarchs in the city.
By the way, Mr. Farmer?
Yes?
If you're the last surviving Tremere in Gary, does that make you the primogen of the Tremere?
That's not exactly how it works. Primogen is a Camarilla thing, but...
Wouldn't you be...
the leader of the Grand Wizard or whatever?
Wouldn't you be Regent?
It could be argued I'm Regent, but...
Regent, that's what it's called.
I guess that he would technically be considered the Regent for now, until one is properly given the title by the Tremere.
Yeah,
but for now, since he's the only Tremere,
until we find Cone or any of the others, I'm it. I'm the adopted
Marcus Farmer.
Don't say that out loud too often, because I don't want to have to deal with that political nightmare until long after all of this other crap is handled.
And here's the thing.
That's Regent.
And political nightmare, it in fact is, because for as long as Marcus, who has remained here in Gary, could remember, for as long as GG was prevalently aware of, for as long as John has been part of the community, for as long as Nikki has held her shop, Gary was a place where the tower ruled officially, even as the Anarchs were in fact the power on the street. They worked hand in hand. By having a city declared as a tower city, it kept other tower cities from annexing or sending representatives. As long as the Anarchs ruled the street, they didn't have to operate in the same political arena as their Prince Modius did. He was a prince in absentia, even when he was visibly and viably active in the city. Long ago, Chicago had driven Gary to its knees and placed its foot on its neck to keep it there. The people of Gary did give up, not because they held some hope and some faith in the future. The people of Gary didn't give up because they didn't have anywhere else to go. Cut off from the state, cut off from the city, cut off from the tower in all but name. The Anarchs have always been the power in Gary, kept in line by the need to be perceived as a tower domain. Without that covering face, without that mask in place, the moment that Modius went missing, all things went to hell. The moment that Juggler disappeared, through whatever means he disappeared through, all things went to hell. As far as the average middle of the road kindred of Gary was aware, things kept getting worse and worse and worse. And no one ever expected it to reach critical mass, but it did, and no one noticed. And it overflowed, and it bubbled up, and in the scalding steam and overfilled spillage of vitae, blood, and money, it is clear that the city of Gary is under new management. While holed up in their hidey hole, away from other kindred, away from other mortals, listening to the war band, waiting for the side spectrum to ping, to notify them, to give them a lead to chase down some information and gather for themselves, to begin arming themselves for the fight ahead of them. While all of their efforts have been pushed towards reaching out to allies or phantoms of allies or friends of friends of friends of an associate who might be an ally. And they worked diligently toward that call. They were unaware as to just how deeply and how entrenched the new power of the land was. And the decision to fight is still theirs to make, because at any point over the next and last few weeks and months, there's always the option of fleeing. But the pride of it all, your home being taken from you, is not something that they can easily knuckle under to. And as the rest of Gary adjusts to the new normal, and the rest of the world and nearby barons and princes and all manner in between begin adjusting to the new normal of Gary, the options are infinite. And the coterie slowly comes to grips with the idea that there is, in fact, a new boss in town. There's a new normal that they have to adjust to in all ways probable. With those thoughts hanging and weighing over us, I'd like to thank you all for a lovely session. And thank you for playing along for the finale of Steelheart's Rusted Soul. Good night, everybody. See you around.
All right.